Hi everyone, today I've got a beautiful Wusthoff knife and I thought I might take you through the full procedure. This will help both new folks as well as may entertain some of you regulars. First thing I've got to do is mention that it's a full bolstered knife right here, and the problem with a bolstered knife and a sharp wheel, I'll tell you what I mean by that in a minute, is that as you come into the bolster you're going to get that sharp edge is going to cut into the radius as it comes out to the bolster, right? So the way that I prevent that from happening is I round off the edges of the wheel, right? Round them off, and that way as it comes in it will create a nice radius edge, or actually what happens is the edge doesn't even contact the bolster. What it does is it departs before it gets there, right? And that finishes the knife nicely without digging in. Now this knife has got a nicely angled away bolster there, so it will not be needing trimming. The problem with a bolster is that as you sharpen the knife, you sharpen up inside of it, especially if they've been using a pull through, and this bolster just sticks back and down and you can't cut your herbs. So first thing I'm going to do, this is quite a small wheel now, I need a new one, but I'm going to round off these edges and then I'll take you through the full procedure of how to sharpen. So stay tuned. Now I've got two stone graders. One is my old one, pretty funny, super used, and this is my new one which I use sparingly. The problem with these is they get glazed on the back, and so therefore they won't do very much to this. But this one's pretty sharp still, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with this one because the radii take a fair bit of heaving and pushing, so it'll kind of, I don't want to destroy this wheel, this side here. So the first thing I do is I start off on a 45-degree angle and push quite hard. I don't mind coming up on the edges just to get that rough shape, and you don't need much, it's just got to be obviously rounded. And don't forget to try and keep the stone still for at least a couple of revolutions. If you just move it around like this, then you're going to skip stuff and you're going to end up with rough bits and smooth bits. So, and I do this all the time, it's hard not to get back into the habit of moving fast like you would on a fast grinding stone. And if you can see there's just a bit of a shoulder there, I have to smooth that off. So I don't want to go from straight into the radius. I want to build a bit of a shoulder on here that sweeps away, so that there's really no edge at all to be caught on the side of a knife with a bolster. Now you can see that I'm starting to wear away the side of the wheel as well as giving it a radius. And a radiused wheel is just nicer to work on, as you may remember from my how to prepare a new wheel video. Once I've finished this, I'm going to smooth it off so that the edges are very smooth at about the 1000 level, because you don't really want to be going in there much, and the least you go in there the better. So a couple of safety issues. This wants to grab the stone and push it out towards you, so make sure you don't get your fingers caught in the back here or anything. Keep your fingers away from any points that might get squashed. Welcome to all the new subscribers. If you're new to the channel, I appreciate your subscription. Don't forget to hit the like button if you like this stuff, because likes are free. It costs you nothing. May as well hit it now. And I'm looking down on the silhouette of this against the, you can't see this, but against the black of the trough. So I can see the shape that's forming. You may be able to see some of it against my t-shirt. Now, because this side is already heavily grooved, I'll use this stone as well until this all runs out. There's not much left, as you can see. See how that's nicely rounded off now? That's what we want. I'm really holding this stone hard, because if it grabs, it's going to hit my thumb against there, but I have to do it this way so you can see what I'm doing. Actually, this bar is probably not even needed. There you go. That's better. Leave a comment if you were thinking that before I took it off. And there you can see beautifully rounded corners. They're not going to dig into the bolster at all. And because it's a new knife, it's going to need a new bevel. I'm safe to use the 80 grit diamond, which conditions the wheel to about 240 without going over onto the edges like that. And that feels nice and rough in there and smooth there. Nice, beautiful. I love that shape of the wheel. Put this back on. And Wusthoff on their packaging recommend a 20-degree angle, but Wusthoffs being what they are, they're such great knives, they can easily handle a 30. So I'm going to put a 30 on here. Now you can see that the last sharpener that they used, let me show you. The last sharpener that they used put a convex edge on there. And some people like that, some people don't. I can't do a convex easily on the Tormek. You can see where the last sharpener also worked this bolster around and brought it nicely back. I'll give him that, that's nice. And I'm going to put a hard bevel on there at 30 degrees. So that's what I'll do next. Now, because these are so beautiful knives, before I do that, I'm going to replace the tape inside here. See, some people put the tape on the knife. I put the tape on the inside, and that allows me commercially to get in and out of knives very easily without all this bother. So I will do that now. Undo it. Careful you don't lose these springs. I have lost them in some sawdust once. It took half a day to find. And of course I love these old jigs. They're way better than the new ones for reasons I've gone into before, but I love this cup because I really dig my thumb into the back here and hold it. The new one doesn't have that. And it slips out. and spray with IPA. A bit of sandpaper to get that glue off and prepare the surface again flat. Nice. And this one. Okay. Now the type of tape matters. I prefer one that's not shiny, so I use this stuff here, which is just normal automotive masking tape. And wrap that around nicely. Job done. That provides a nice gripping surface that doesn't mark the knife. Now what I like to do is pop a little bit of, well, even though it's brass, it is brass against stainless, so the two dissimilar metals there. You want to make sure that's easy to do and undo. And that's ready. You can see as you lift that up, it clamps down in there nicely. So I'll pop the knife in. Step 1, step 2, and really tight, because you don't want that slipping, and it will slip. As you get nervous using the machine, you tend to hold on to this really tightly, and I've had them push out on me. So that's ready for grinding now. Next stage, set the angle. Now I've just recently straightened this wheel out, and it's at about 205. Very easy to tell. You just look down here. And you can see that that is at around about 205. If we come straight down, you can see it's about 2.5. So we set this wheel to 205, which it already is. And then I set this one at 30, which it already is. And then this edge here has to sit against the blades. And that point there, that point right there, has to sit against the wheel. And this has to sit against the wheel. I know there's some confusion, but these are fantastically simple, easy to use guide. I'm not a fan of the new one. I think it overcomplicates it for no reason at all. You can see that there's a bit of a gap at the bottom. Let me show you. Right here, you can see there's a bit of a gap, which means the knife has to come down, which will lower it. Let's see if we can capture this on camera. A little bit more. about right. Perfect. Excellent. Now, because it's a low wheel, it's going to bang into that. So I'll take this off. Make sure I put this screw back on, otherwise the axle gets loose. And we're good to go. The wheel has been roughened up. I always start at the tip because the tip is easier to land. If you're trying to land on the back here, then you're never going to get it perfectly flat. You're going to either touch that side first or you're going to touch that side first, and you're going to have to land it like a plane. Look, it's just too tricky, right? So I start at the tip. That way I can rock this, make sure that I'm at the correct angle, because if you start here, by the time you get to here and you're focusing, look what's happened here. I'm off the rest, right? Don't want that. I start here, that way I know this angle is correct. And believe me, it's quite hard here. You're not going to wear the tip away. And I slowly progress it. You see how that radius is coming into play now? Nice. It's okay to work that back a little bit. Now don't forget, it's going to get fat, don't be alarmed. It's going to get fat there because it's thicker, right? So the same angle bevel on a thicker knife creates a fatter bevel. Yeah, nice. Now there's no bevel there, there's no burr yet, so it's starting to develop a little bit. Now for the new operators, most of my pressure is on my thumb at the back here to keep this flat and level, right here. Sometimes I put a little bit of oil on here, but at the moment it's not gripping, so it's quite smooth. And you just move it slowly through, steadily, not too fast, not too slow. Now I have a burr. So it doesn't take long, a few minutes. reshape this a bit. Beautiful. See that tip? Nothing wrong with it. And it gets a bit wider as it gets fatter towards the back. You don't have to make it sharp all the way to the back, just to this first area here is fine. Quite toothy because we're still on the rough stone. See that tip first technique creates a perfect tip. So next stage is the 320 grit times by 3 means the wheel ends up at about 960 to 1000. I think it's about 900. Just so you know, this is what it looks like when it wears out. I don't know what happened there, but normally I get about a year out of one of these plates. They only cost like 11 bucks. That one, I don't know what happened there. I must have got carried away or wasn't focusing or something and it went through. Now, when you touch that on the wheel, it will grip the plate and really move it away. So that steel really grips on the plate. But you can use this, you can use that, you can use all the way around. So there's really no drama. Okay. It feels a little bit rough, so just going to give it a bit of a smoothing out with the wheel. This is 1000 and that feels much better now. You should be able to hear the difference. A little less crunchy. You only need a few passes. A little bit more on this side. One tip I'll give you is that go slower as you're coming around this corner as you do on the flat, because on the flat, let's say you're coming along and you've come to this point here. This point here is going to stay on the wheel, sorry, it's going to stay here. Right, it's going to stay on the wheel all the way across there. Whereas when you're on the tip or on a corner, that point really only stays on for a fraction of a time before you're moving over to the rest of it, right? See, it's already lifted off at the tip and didn't get a full run. So don't go too fast as you're coming around corners. You don't have to slow right down, but just keep it in mind that you should really take it a little bit easier. Otherwise it'll end up a very small bevel. Okay. Now this does have some variation in the size of the bevel, and I'm guessing that that might be because the last person who did it on a sanding belt and over sanded in some spots and didn't sand enough in the others. But as you can see, that's a beautiful bevel for the most part. And don't forget, it gets fat at the back because it gets fat at the back. Oh geez, I sound like Kamala Harris there, but you know what I mean. All right, see how it's a little bit wider here than it is there? And you can see, if you look at the reflections, that they've really ground into it, dug in here, and that way there's less, it's a thinner knife here than it is there. But again, another beautiful tip. So that's good enough now. Next, on to the deburr. I freehand all the time, deburring, because I think that setting the whole jig up to do it exactly on the is just unnecessary, and I know this because of the results that I get. All right. And I've been over this a few times, but I'll take, in case there's anybody watching this that hasn't seen this method before. First, I use chrome oxide, which is a little bit fine and finer than the Tormek paste, but I find the Tormek paste incredibly messy. It's expensive. You have to use a lot of it. This bar will last me all year, if not longer. All right, so first of all, I feel for the burr. The burr is on the top, so I'll polish the back of the burr, which makes sense because what I'm doing is I'm weakening the back of the burr, so when I finally come to attack the burr, it will fall off easier. And what my method is, as you lay the knife on, if you lay it straight flat, you're basically on the back of the bevel, right? On that little line there. And if you're right up high, you're on the apex. But when you're on the bevel, it wants to grip because there's more surface area there, so it wants to grip the knife and take it. So what I do is I find that gripping point and then I lift it up a little bit to provide a slight secondary bevel, and that's what gives me the sharp. That's the gripping point. So I lift it up a little bit and just pull it through. Now what you'll find is that the higher quality of the knife, the easier the burr comes off. All right, so you don't have to burr for too long. There was one of the Tormek videos that said that you should deburr for as long as you're grinding. Incorrect. Sorry fellas, but that is wrong. You want to deburr for as little as possible, just the minimum amount. All right, find the gripping point, lift it up. And actually, if I lift it up, then that secondary bevel that I'm putting on here with the honing procedure is probably closer to the 20 degrees that Wusthoff recommends. And always test it on the back of my fingernail. You don't have to wipe it off because that's an exposed edge, and this should feel smooth, which it does. All right. And that is technically finished, but it's not because I've got the kangaroo strop to go yet. But you know what? Why don't we do a best test at this level and see where we're at? And then I'll kangaroo strop it and we'll see if that improves it. Okay. Here's my two strops. That out of the way. Get the machine. And when using these machines, it's always best to make sure they're on a hard surface and not rocking, because stability counts. I've got a fresh wire in there, so I'm pretty sure that's finished on there. Let's see what the wheel produces, the standard Tormek. Slowly pushing 166. That's not brilliant, to be honest. But let's see what a 166 feels like on the paper. See? Beautiful. You do that at a farmer's market, they'll be walking away super happy. But we're not happy. Let's give it a cigarette test and see what it sounds like and feels like at 166. It'll still cut, but it's very noisy and I'm not a fan. So let's improve it with the kangaroo strop. Now it's important apparently to strop in the direction that you're grinding. If you're doing this on the stone, then you've got to hone at that point as well, or strop at that point. But because we're doing a round, this is a completely perpendicular grinding pattern, so that means that you should strop in a straight pattern on the Tormek. This is not wet. Let me go and wet it. Better. Now how many do we give it? Well, I'd like to test that one day, but for now I'm pressing medium hard. And because there are ridges on both sides, it's different. Kangaroo leather is not even. I'll turn the strop around. Okay. First, let's test it on the paper and see if that's improved it. And that's only half my stropping. I also do it on this, which is a bit softer. And in fact, I will give that a bit of a go. And then lighter and lighter strokes. And this removes the root of the burr and gets you nothing but pure edge, which should last a lot longer. Okay, that's about as much as I would want to do on that. Let's see if that's improved this. I think it has. And if it hasn't, I'll do more stropping. Let me just get a new clip. I've got some here. What was it before? 166? Make sure that's straight. 105. I reckon we can get it lower. I think we can get to 100 or lower than 100. But 105 is obviously fantastic. Come over here and work this softer strop a little bit more. And of course I'm rolling it as well at the same time, so I'm getting all the angles, both on the bevel and also on the apex. So, you know, that you can hear it rubbing on those ribs. That's what you want. Now if you can't get kangaroo tail leather, try buffalo. Buffalo hide has got some pretty good bumps on it. They won't harm the knife. I'm using lighter and lighter strokes. Let's see how it goes on the paper. That's pushing through. That's not bad. Can we do a horizontal? We can do a slice but not a push. They're a bit fat, Wusthoffs. For a push cut. But that's the ultimate test, is a horizontal push cut. But you need a... So let's see if we can get a better test. I want to see below 100. Slow push, no cheating. 99. Happy with that? So that's the Wusthoff. Beautifully sharpened and technically razor sharp. Hope you enjoyed that. We will, what type of Wusthoff is it? It's a Trident, just the normal standard Trident. Beautiful knives. Thanks for watching. Speak to you later.